All right. I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM players, and it's not Thursday.
No,
I
it's a
feel
wait
weird.
a minute. Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure it doesn't feel like Blair's Day. It feels special. This is something special going on, right?
With the election? Is that over?
I think. Well, I'm in Georgia. It's going to be going on down here for the next several months. So,
Okay, so it's not that. Well, I got renewed for global services. I consider that special.
hey, that's really special. And actually, uh, my credit report got fixed up so that this collection that Charter Cable put on me by mistake is gone. So I'm back to having a regular credit thing. So that's special, I guess.
All right, so so that's it. That's what's
Well,
special.
thank you, folks. And no, we're just kidding. It is special. This is the very first CRM Players watch party. And we're going to be watching something that I don't think we've ever seen Larry Ellison talk about before, at least a keynote. But it is a special feature of CX Keynote that Larry Ellison from Oracle is doing. And because of that, and because we were originally going to do this on the 29th, which would have been right smack in the middle of our show, then they moved the date to today. And so, because we got a lot of positive feedback on, yeah, this sounds like a good idea, we decided we're going to do it anyway. So, even though it is not a CRM Players Thursday, it is a special CRM Players edition watching Larry Ellison talk about CX thing.
Thing. Thing. And it's going to be different as we found out when we were kind of testing it, which was it's hard to talk over someone and give a decent piece of analysis while he's trying to give a speech.
Yeah, it is.
So doesn't look like we can do that in order. So we got two options. Well, we have two. We have a plan actually. One plan. Plan one is we're going to do comments that are sort of Mystery Science Theater 3000 length, which is oh no, or yeah, that's right, or really, come on, or of course that's it, right? But that's about it. It's going to be like checkbox comments because we really can't do more without like you not hearing any of the speech. But then following it, what we're going to do is we're going to actually do some talking head stuff, and we're going to do our analysis of what we heard. 5-10 minutes after Larry's speech, because the actual summit's going to go on for another 2 or 3 hours. However, we're going to be cutting out from this at the end of Larry's speech specifically. And if other people want to go back and join in on the summit, you'll have to go elsewhere from here, including us.
MST, Mastery Mystery Science Theater.
Science Theater. Yeah, it's Mystery Science Theater 2030.
No, the
I'm
real
just
mystery is
kidding.
if this will actually work. That's
Yeah, this is going to be trickier than we expected, but um, it shouldn't be very tricky with finding you guys and your comments. And remember, the hashtag for the summit is hashtag Oracle CX Summit. That's their hashtag. Now, I have no idea on LinkedIn if the actual tags work since they're meant to be Twitter tags, right? So I don't know if the Oracle will see them under that hashtag unless somehow they're wow, Dan, that's almost maniacal. So anyway, we'll see what happens. I mean, Larry should be starting now, actually. So
We're
as soon
keeping
as we
tabs
see
on it.
him,
Right now, they're just,
yeah,
got the video going. We got the sound off on the video so that we can talk a
yeah,
bit.
and this is nice stuff too. I mean, Oracle
Oh, yeah.
employees volunteering 125,000 hours last year. Although I will tell you, generally when I see those kind of things, I'm glad for them. But what I'd like to know from the company is that they were compensated fully for that day when they were volunteering. Not
Hmm.
that they did it; that's them as individuals being good people. But that's how the company's culture supported it is what I want to know. because I remember there was one large consultancy that said, "Oh, our employees did this, but they had to take a vacation day." So so they're taking credit for what their employees put themselves out to do when they had no right to do it. Now, I'm pretty sure Oracle. I would guess, judging from what I've seen of Oracle lately, especially, that they do compensate the employees for that. But we'll see. We'll ask.
I'll just point out a couple of things. We will go right to Larry whenever we see him come on. I almost feel like I'm on cable news or something. We're
Well,
waiting for
right.
them to go to the podium, and
Breaking
then
news. I think there's some results from Arizona in.
yeah, right. I'm in Georgia, so if somebody, my next door neighbor might shout something, I'll let you guys know. But I might look a little funny because I'm not in. I don't have the usual camera set up because we're doing this special thing, and I've got two sets of headphones. That's just because I'm crazy. I don't know what other way to put it. And then, but we definitely want. Look who's already got a comment already. Look at that. You got your
Thank
answer.
you, Des. Thank you. That's what we want to see. Thank
Des,
you.
we
I
actually thought
assume that.
you
What
might
I
be
said.
opening this up with a nice guitar solo, maybe letting Larry walk up to you strumming something. But okay, maybe next time.
That's awesome, and I'm glad to see that. It's again. I thought that the Oracle I know now would do that.
That's
So
cool.
it's good. Good news.
Uh-oh.
Good news.
Looks like we're getting
Okay.
ready. So we're going to bring the sound up
Going.
here.
Now we see if we can do this. This
For
is going to
real.
be fun.
Here we
Fun
go.
and funny.
Here we go.
Redwood.
I like the new design. It looks nice.
I do too, man. Redwood is a real benefit to that company. It's done wonderful.
Thank you, Thomas, sir.
Apparently, it's Brent, according to Thomas, said you know where to look.
Shredding for Larry. That's what we want next time.
Redwood's really cool.
It looks nice.
Shout out to L. Cooperman and Jenny Lamb, man, on this one.
Yeah. And they were a great hit on
Hey everybody,
the episode
it is
there. All right,
Jay
here we go.
Bear coming to you from my home studio in Bloomington, Indiana, and I'm joined
Who's
today
that?
by my
Jay
pal
Bear.
Lisa Joy Rosner, who's coming to you.
She's an old friend of mine from 20
in
years,
Northern
Lisa.
California. And this, my friends,
Nice.
Lisa
this
Joy.
is the Oracle Cloud
Not the
CX
Joy, right?
Virtual Summit.
Anyways.
Lisa Joy.
In fact, the third summit in the series. And if you haven't been able to catch up on the incredible insights and learnings that we had in the previous two summits devoted to personalized marketing and intelligent service, you absolutely need to do that. Hopefully, we will send you a link to those sessions after the conclusion of this summit. Now, today's summit is all about rethinking the customer experience in order to drive business growth today and in the future. We're going to hear from some well-known companies about how they are accelerating the shift to digital selling, and in so doing, redefining the experience that they're designing not only for the sellers in their own organization, but also for their customers. And of course, as we have learned from the prior summits as well, the customer experience is important all the way through the customer journey. The customer experience begins before somebody becomes a customer. Isn't that right, Lisa Joy?
That's right, Jay. I talk to our customers every day, and I'm blown away with the stories they tell me. They share how they're integrating the front office and back office and using data and insights to make sure that every interaction with their customer is meaningful. Now, to kick things off, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Rob Tarkoff, EVP of Oracle CX and Data Cloud, and our very special guest,
I
Oracle's
guess we're
founder,
starting with Rob.
Gary Ellison.
Yeah,
Rob,
good place to
over
start.
to you.
Welcome, everyone. Great to see you. You've heard a lot lately from Oracle about the incredible progress we've made on our Gen 2 cloud infrastructure over the past several years, and you've likely heard about the amazing strides that we've made in becoming the unquestioned leader in Fusion ERP. Today, I'm delighted to have the chance to talk to our CTO and chairman, Larry Ellison, about the progress we've made and are continuing to make on what we refer to at Oracle as the front
Yeah.
office or the CX suite. There's a lot that's happened here, and the momentum is building. Over the next hour, we're going to hear more about what we're doing to execute against Larry's vision and how it is different from anything in the market today. So with that, let me welcome Larry to this chat. Welcome, Larry.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Great. So let's start, Larry, with an area that you and I have talked a lot about, namely how winning the front office starts with winning the back office, and why this is more important than ever today.
Well, I think people want integrated suites. Early on in technology development, our industry develops a lot of one-off products. When Salesforce.com came out with their sales, their sales product, that was, they were a smaller company back then, and they could do exactly one front office product, sales automation. It's interesting that they call it sales automation. It's actually a system to keep track of opportunity management and forecast management were the two primary things that they did in their first sales automation product. But over time,
And account management.
as markets mature, people move from building one-off products to suites of integrated products. So you integrate sales and service in the front office. But in fact, the integration is not simply a set of integrations around different front office products like sales and service. It's also an integration between service and the back office and sales and the back office. For example, if you actually manufacture something, if you build something and you send it out, you have to service it. The only way you can do that effectively, provide that service, is to understand what your inventories are, understand where your field service people are, make sure you dispatch the field service people with the right spare parts. It's very, very interesting. All of these products have integration points. All of these products have links, not simply sales and service in the front office, but also sales and service in the back office. When you're selling a product, there's something called available to promise. You'd like to, people will say, okay, I'd like to buy X. I'd like to buy this machine. When can I get it? Again, the answer of when can you actually ship the machine or ship the product requires understanding what your inventory is in e-commerce, anything that you're shipping, and you got to figure out which warehouse it's in. Go ahead and how you're going to ship it, and then confirm with the customer not only have you shipped it, but the customer's received it. So those are integrations between the front office and the back office. I can go on and on and on. I'll give you one more famous example. As we look at our installed base of customers, as Oracle looks at its installed base of customers, we like to figure out by looking at our installed base of customers, how they're using our products and what we should sell them next. That information about our customers, everything.
I always wonder why they leave marketing out of this entirely. Doesn't really fit the back office argument too well, though.
It does, but it's the first part of this whole thing.
And service. All of those things link together. So as the market matures, we move from selling one-off products like sales.
Does, Jason?
Simple integrations like sales and service to complete suites where you have sales, service, inventory, accounting, all the human resources, all of those products linked together to provide a unified
marketing out again.
A unified set of automation for the company that we're working with.
Well, he's making more of a case around integration than CX, right? CX, his argument holds pretty strongly. Integration is leaving out elements.
The operations of my field technician. I'm
just
just
going
to cover my call center agent. But as again, the problems that customers are facing become about orchestrating information and data across back office and front office systems. This last point you made about unification, unifying these products on one suite becomes even more important. It's interesting, just a couple of customer examples I'd love to highlight on that. Aon is a large insurance company, as you know. They started this unification process by saying, wow, wouldn't it be great if I can start with making it simple to find and understand all the information about my accounts, really mastering that account information in one place and being able to use that across my front and back office. So Aon's been a great example of standardizing on Oracle Sales and Oracle Fusion Analytics to be able to get that visibility into account information at the same time that they're mastering the accounts in our Customer Data Master, our CDM product on Fusion. And once you have that single source of truth, it's interesting. We're seeing now customers move into, well, now I can do exactly what you're saying. I trust the intelligence I have, the integrity of the information about the account. I can connect it with my back office. So companies like JCI in the HVAC industry and others are saying, now I can do exactly those processes you're talking about, which we've called service logistics, mapping a part, an inventory item to the availability and scheduling and routing of a field technician. And when you unify these on one system, not only do you make it less costly and obviously less administratively burdensome, but you allow these companies to innovate with new business models too. So JCI, as an example, is thinking about introducing subscriptions. Well, it's a lot easier to introduce a new model moving from transactional to subscription if you've unified all this on one suite. So we're actually seeing a lot of our customers really who started with one application.
Well, you're smart using field service here because it happens to be a good argument for field service.
Or Fusion Analytics or HR on the Oracle Cloud in the back office to see the possibility across this connected suite. So this is becoming a very real thing now.
Yeah, well, I think that maybe the biggest change in sales automation is going to be enabled by integration with the back office. And the biggest change in sales automation, and where we're trying to innovate, is we think sales automation should help you sell more, not forecast better. That's a fundamental distinction between first generation sales automation and second generation sales automation.
I'm there with them.
So what do I mean by that? Okay, so we have all of this data in our Fusion suite. All of our existing customers, we know have all this data about our existing customers. So we have a recommendation engine in our sales automation. Now people think recommendation engine, that sounds like e-commerce. I'm on Amazon.com and I'm buying product, I'm buying a flashlight, and they give me a bunch of recommendations as I'm looking at flashlights as to what flashlights
what would you recommend with a flashlight
I might be interested in the recommendation engine.
Batteries?
Well, in our sales automation product, the new version of it, and I'll explain how it works later on in this get together. We have a recommendation engine that tells the salesperson all the customers that we have that look like customers who just bought Fusion Analytics, or just bought Fusion Sales, or just bought Fusion Service, or just bought Fusion Marketing. So we actually tell the salesperson what company they should approach next to sell. Our recommendation engine helps the sales.
They tried to do that years ago with social CRM, but they've actually gotten to the point they can do it now.
Not only does it help you identify,
Oracle social CRM, the actual product,
it will automatically spin up a system that starts advertising to those targets. You don't go to your ad agency, you don't do any of that stuff. You simply run a digital ad campaign. Those annoying ads that pop up when you go to Nike.com and you see that this last set pair of sneakers you're looking at every place you go on the internet, those sneakers follow you around. Well, we have the ability to spin up those same ads that recommend our Fusion suite or Fusion
That's
HCM,
funny.
Fusion ERP.
No, it's like we have the ability to be annoying, like digitally.
So
that is funny. Although I get his point.
Nobody's ever done that. Nobody's
It sounded funny.
Again, the big difference between Generation 1 sales help you manage opportunities and help you forecast your manager, and Generation 2 sales is we help you sell more. So step one, the recommendation engine. that recommend, so which of our customers should we sell?
Time-honored CX principle, right? People like me.
Let's advertise to that customer.
Someone
Step
like
3,
me.
We have an automated system for lead qualification, generation, and qualification. We can even automatically generate a proposal to that customer. Now, this is for an Oracle customer, where what we do when we sell a front office application or a back office application is we send out a proposal, and which includes the proposal for the monthly subscription fee that'll cost you by Oracle sales, plus the consulting. You need to go ahead and actually implement Oracle sales automation. We can generate that automatically. Our system keeps track of all of our products and all of our relevant
So
references.
it's kind of a B2B recommendation engine, which is actually pretty interesting.
Machine learning, AI.
Haven't heard a lot of that.
Used throughout the suite. It will tell you what are the most relevant references for this product that you should pass on to your prospective customer. It does all of that. So we're doing a lot of innovation around Gen 2 sales automation designed to help you sell more. The recommendation engine tells you who you should sell to. The recommendation engine tells you what are the best references, for that customer. We then automatically generate ads for the influencers and the decision makers in that customer. And we even automatically generate the proposal and open the opportunity in our sales automation system. You can't do any of that without integrating all the pieces of the suite. Sales to service, front office to back office, front office and back office to HCM. All of those things are made possible through integrated suites.
It's a good logical case.
Solutions.
Sometimes it's so logical.
I think that's great.
it
And
sounds
imagine
too
that we're
obvious,
now
but it's
entering
right.
into the world where sales.
Well, he's right, but at the same time,
salespeople-
Salesforce can do it through, say, MuleSoft or something like that.
Right.
I mean, there's ways to do it.
Products are
His argument's
used by salespeople.
absolutely
They're
right,
used by Sales
but
assistants, because
it's not
what they
undoable
do is they help
For
manage,
elsewhere.
but it's
get a
he's
forecast.
still leaving
from
out
their-
marketing
from their
stuff.
sales quarterly forecast.
absolutely.
I don't.
It helps the salespeople to track an opportunity. It does not help the salespeople to sell more. You cannot, at Salesforce.com, automatically spin up an ad campaign targeted at that specific customer. That is not possible. They don't do that. They don't have the recommendation engine, and you can't with Salesforce.com go ahead and understand. Okay, you want to buy this product? Well, we have it in inventory, or we don't have it in inventory, but we're in the process of manufacturing it, and we'll have
They
it.
do have predictive sales
You can't do any of
capability, Dan.
Lots
That
and
they
lots
do. They've had it for a while.
these second generation products can do as a result of integrating front office, back office, manufacturing, inventory with sales and service. It's a new world, and you can't compete unless you have a complete and integrated suite. I'm sorry, I'm going on for a long time, but let me tell you another thing that's really important.
Right.
But the way that customers operate right now, very common early on, you do best of breed. So you have someone's ERP system, you have someone's HCM system, you have someone's sales automation system, you have someone's marketing system. You have 4 or 5 different suppliers. Well, the great thing about the cloud is we constantly upgrade our products. We upgrade our products at Oracle every 90 days. We have a new version every 90 days. Well, if you have new versions from 5 separate companies every 90 days, and those versions are supposed to talk to one another, those versions are supposed to be integrated. Suddenly, the customer is responsible for the integration of those products. That's very complicated and very expensive.
So is he
very
saying that all their
error-prone.
products get updated at the same time every 90
versus
days?
If you buy a complete and integrated
Good
suite
question.
from 1 or maybe 2 suppliers, then if it's
Yeah,
one
but
supplier, it's one complete
the
integrated suite
problem with,
all the
I mean, what he's
integration
saying is true, technically,
is done
theoretically,
by
but problem is who's going to give up all their investment and all those other things to go to that?
IT
I mean, you got to take things from where they are, and Oracle can work just as well
customer
integrating with
servicing.
others too. They do that.
That'd be a huge
It's great.
undertaking.
And one of the things that you have pushed us and our teams to really think about is these historical boundaries that somehow the market create around what constitutes an advertising system and what constitutes a marketing system, what constitutes a sales system. There's no reason for them to be separate and have all this fragmentation, all these third-party players. I remember the meeting where you said, I want this whole thing to
Absolutely
be
right.
a closed loop system. With the push of a button, I activate the same advertising campaign that aligns brand media metrics with sales metrics. Because don't tell me about how many impressions I have or how much media I want to know how much pipeline did it generate and what sale did it lead to in the end.
Yeah, never on our quarterly report, our quarterly conference call on quarterly results, does someone say, Larry, how many impressions did you generate in advertising this past quarter?
That's right.
They want to know how much we sold. Companies want to prosper. The automation tools we supply should help salespeople sell more.
I mean, his foundation here is right. I mean, there's no question about it.
Innovation in the front office.
Right down to earth.
Right
And
next
built
to it,
on the back office
co-primary
data, being able to help
is
sell.
provide-
Well, yeah, it's built on what Oracle does, right? Which, of course, is very
Exactly.
So I was
important,
just
but
going to move to service,
sense.
and I was going to just mention for a minute, you've talked a lot about the integration of our digital assistant, our Oracle digital assistant with our service flows. And we have a number of customers doing this really successfully today. Hermes, the package company, not the scarf company. UK.
good timing.
His name is Hermes.
Hermes, yes. But,
That is
That's right.
the same,
yes,
pronounced differently.
yes. But my French pronunciation is never that great. So
Thank God
Hermes,
it's not the.
delivers 400
scarf
million
company.
parcels a day.
That would be like Porsche.
They have
Oh,
ODA,
Porsche.
the Oracle Digital Assistant, as a front end to the Oracle Service Cloud. So there again, they're helping service people be more successful without ever actually talking to a person. I mean, now they nicknamed their digital assistant Holly. People actually write letters to Holly thanking
Wonder
her.
what Holly Simmons
Bot
would
is
think of
so
that.
intelligent, obviously understands the dialogues, and it keeps learning. And so this area of service, I was going to ask you as well, what excites you in the service area that you're seeing?
Well, you're going to hear from me right now that same boring theme, complete and integrated suite. So far, what I we've been talking about in complete and integrated suite is that the front office applications work with the back office applications. First of all, the front office applications work together. I mean, you've got sales, service, marketing, all those pieces, and they work together. And then they work with manufacturing and inventory.
Good point.
You
Might want to do that. Get rid of that.
I don't know how to do it on the fly.
Another
Maybe I don't know.
where Oracle's
If I get
truly
mistaken
unique,
for
and
Larry.
no one disputes this, is we're the only player in the cloud that has application suites, enterprise application suites, and a complete set of infrastructure. And think about it. We're in these two people say, well, Oracle, why are you in these two totally different
That's the
businesses?
bond's right about that.
When I think of
It is
infrastructure,
tracking to completion. That's integrate. That's how all of them get integrated.
are
Marketing, sales,
Amazon,
service, the whole thing.
Microsoft, Google, and Oracle.
Tracking to
Those are
completion.
the four biggest infrastructure, cloud suppliers. When I think of applications, cloud applications, I think of Oracle, Salesforce, maybe Workday and HCM. SAP really doesn't have an ERP system in the cloud. They bought a bunch of other, edge products in the cloud. But it's the only thing of SAP as
That's
an
not.
application.
That's not it.
In
that's
fact,
not
they were the
right.
largest.
They do
application
have ERP in the cloud.
on-premise applications. But so we compete with Salesforce, Workday, and SAP in applications, and we compete with Microsoft and Amazon and Google in cloud. But we're the only ones that have in our cloud complete suite of infrastructure and a complete suite of applications. The fact that our applications, we have the only enterprise applications built on top of modern cloud infrastructure. Well, that's easy to say. What does that mean? Well, it's nice you're in both those businesses. Well, our applications are dramatically better because we're an AI supplier. We have a lot of machine learning and AI technology in our underlying cloud that's available for our application to use and exploit. Maybe the most obvious piece of AI that we have that's kind of visible through our applications is our voice digital assistant. So all of
I
our
was hoping to get to
applications
that.
have this very modern user interface, an AI-based user interface, where you talk to the application. It's very much like Amazon's Alexa, except you can talk to all of our applications. And that's because our applications are built on top of our infrastructure. And one of the key components of our infrastructure is the voice digital assistant. Our UIs.
This is where they could really blow it out compared to everybody else.
Modern UIs in the world. Why? Why is Oracle's UI technology suddenly so much better than our competitors?
Because you got Hillel Cooperman designing
voice interfaces.
And
Why do we
Jenny.
have
That's why.
camera interfaces?
Yeah, the two of them are just
All of our
rock stars.
applications.
Redwood.
Well, that's the most prominent.
This is really
example
great, though, to hear him
of
talk
the
about
fact that
voice
we're
like
the
this.
only suite
It's
of
great.
enterprise applications that sit on top of true cloud infrastructure, and which includes, again, this fantastic new technology we've developed, which we call our voice digital assistant. Now, we didn't invent the voice digital assistant, but we have it in our infrastructure, and we're the only applications company to have a voice digital assistant in its infrastructure.
Right. So let's
Yes,
take
Paul, it is definitely interesting,
all this
isn't it?
benefit you've talked about, the complete integrated
Yep.
suite, both
I mean,
back
That's
office
Paul
at
Sweet.
the
his last point was the strongest, by the way.
infrastructure, leveraging
Yep.
common machine learning like our
And it's a
voice
big
digital
opportunity.
assistant services across the entire suite, and take that to the industry lens, because this is another big theme that you've been pushing on, which is that the future of customer experience applications is going to be different by industry. So recently,
He's
as you
right
know,
there.
we released our
Absolutely.
first in the series of completely integrated front to back office flows in the communications industry with 3
That's
modules
okay, Jason.
in our digital
Paul's
experience,
Irish.
product buying, product care. But I'd love to hear more from you about your vision on verticalized or industry specific CX as you see it in the future.
Yeah, well, I
Verticals.
think, again, if you look at the evolution.
I mean, this is a trend throughout the whole industry right now, which is verticals.
The enterprise applications industry in the cloud. The first thing you saw when our industry was rather immature, and people don't realize, Salesforce was 20 years ago. In fact, we own the very first cloud company that ever existed. The very first cloud company that ever existed is called NetSuite.
Yeah, NetSuite. He's right.
A year later,
Absolutely right.
started NetSuite. Mark Benioff started Salesforce.com. Those were really the
That's
two
Did he
first
mention
two
Jeff
cloud
Gianforte right
companies
now?
of any kind, and they were application companies, not infrastructure companies. So they've actually been around for a while. Again, more than 20 years, hard to believe. But when they started, again, when Salesforce started, as I pointed out, they started with a sales automation product. They started with one product, and then they added service, and they started adding some other products. So stage one, you have your first product comes out. Stage two of evolution as the market matures and the technology matures. Stage two is you start building suites, albeit suites of 2 or 3 products, not 10 like we have in Fusion. Stage three, again, you continue to build out the suite, 2 products, 4 products, you integrate front office, back office, but the final stage, if you will, as the industry becomes very mature, is these products start becoming tailored to industries. So we're actually reaching.
I don't know if they call it the final stage, but he's right about the maturity.
Yeah, the maturity part.
We don't just have sales automation. We don't just have service automation. We just don't have marketing automation, but we have these products for the communications industry, these products for the pharmaceutical industry.
Raj, I don't think he described it enough to really make that.
Yeah, that was
Industry
pretty deep.
by industry. And we're constantly moving up the value chain. First, we just give you a sales automation system in the cloud, which is better than one on premise. Then we start giving you suites in the cloud. And now we're giving you integrated suites of products where all the pieces fit together, and those products are now tailored for your specific industry. And as Rob, as you just mentioned, we just launched our first industry, CX industry, which is communications. More to come. And
there's one place they got a long way to catch up though.
Yeah.
In that we have,
but they got the foundation
number of
right
products.
Well, yeah, they have a lot of
just
maybe not CX, but they have a ton of industry specific products.
Industry.
Yeah.
But they do have a long way to go on the CX side, I think, even though I'm sure they'll do well. But
specific knowledge. And what you didn't mention, because it's kind of inside baseball, is how we developed this CX for communication, this CX for communication suite of 3 products. We did it as a collaboration between your CX team that you run and Mike Cecilia's communication teams that he runs.
yeah,
So we have this interdisciplinary group.
Mike runs verticals for
Has
them.
all the domain knowledge, all the expertise to go ahead and tailor communications. I
interviewed Rob and Mike, and that'll be out soon.
And again, it's, our industry applications are very unusual. There's nobody else that has these kind of suites of industry applications to go with their horizontal applications.
Well, you sort of beat me to the punch, but this 3rd generation cloud application being these verticalized experiences across sales and service and marketing and commerce. One of the things my friend Mike Cecilia brings to this.
You actually mentioned marketing.
Domain expertise, not only by industry.
You just said that. Of course, he made commerce the 4th pillar.
Basically setting the agenda in many cases and helping set the agenda.
But isn't Unity
for
kind of
where
the
these
linchpin to all
industries
that
will
he just
go as they
talked
undergo digital transformation?
By far, best thing they got is that
utility,
CX Unity. That's their true differentiator right there. It's
to us
fantastic.
today, we do a lot of their compliance applications, security applications. Where do I go as I try to make this journey to offer, new account opening and more agile, modern customer experiences to compete with these upstart fintech companies? We're sitting there as part of that advisory body, just as we were with communications, and it's nobody else has that. It's
it's unique. I mean, people don't think of Oracle as one of the top 2 clinical trial suppliers in the world. They don't think of us as the #1 supplier of technology for money, to detect money laundering and financial services, things like that. But we are. And so we have.
I almost thought he was going to say #1 supplier for money laundering.
That's why it's important in these industries right now. What people are working on, it gives us very high level relationships with our clients, with the industry specific applications, and then we're able to work with those clients. I mean, it really is a collaboration, obviously, between your group and CX and Mike Cecilia's group in communications, but most importantly, it's a collaboration with our clients.
That's right.
Who help us design these products, help us fully understand what their requirements are, and then we roll out these products to a few customers in that industry, make sure we've got it right, make sure it's complete before we make it generally available. So again, that's a unique ability that Oracle has, industry by industry, to tailor its applications.
And to that point, and I want to call out both Mike's team and the sales teams of all this. The day we launched Digital Experience for Communications, we actually signed our first customer, which was Swisscom, who has, as you know, 80% market share in Switzerland in the communications sector. They helped us not only figure out how do you take all the billing and orchestration expertise that our communications GBU has in the back end and tie it together with the front end of the CX products to create this purpose-built experience for communications. But they also helped us think about how to evolve the architecture for the industry. And so we have design partners, and Swisscom is as much a design partner as a customer in this, that are really helping us design these solutions, and many more to come from that. But it's a very exciting area that we're entering into. I just want to make there was one more area that I wanted to cover with you a little bit, which is just about sort of as we think about the future of selling and marketing and advertising, as we move into this.
There we go.
Really enabling a lot of different
here's the CDP stuff,
processes
Unity, I'm
that
guessing.
previously didn't exist. So you mentioned our customer reference database that we're using inside of Oracle, and this ability to actually choose your references for you, to let the machine do the selling for you. I'm curious as to your opinion, sort of given where we are in the world with COVID and so many more digital processes. We're at Oracle onboarding new salespeople without ever meeting them physically, and they're going through these. How important do you
Now,
think
that's interesting.
these systems are going to be, both short term, kind of while we're in this immediate crisis, and long term? Do you see the landscape changing to a much more kind of digital, remote world as companies operate?
Well, it's already happened and we'll never go back. So it's not like we'll never go back to the office, but we will never go back to the office at, 9 to 5. That's just not going to happen. It makes no sense, at least in our industry. So people will figure out how many hours they should be in the office and how many of their hours they'll be working at home. I mean, this is, look at how we're meeting right now on Zoom. Zoom is very interesting. This Zoom meeting is actually being conducted in the Oracle Cloud. Maybe people don't realize that the majority of Zoom meetings, these millions, tens of millions of Zoom meetings that happen every day, the majority of them happen in the Oracle Cloud. We do more Zoom meetings than any.
That was such a coup for Oracle.
Another cloud supplier.
That relationship.
Great timing.
To their credit.
They were way ahead of us at one time. Now we're ahead of them. And this is an example of our infrastructure with the Zoom meetings. We are working on integrating Zoom with our sales products, with our service products.
See, there you go.
The way we communicate with our
I
customers.
just did a whole piece on this.
Connect
The
with them
future of where this got to go, which is integrating communications.
Effective communication, share documents, do all of those things, do it securely. And again, find our the relevant documents, have them file service requests where they pop up in a Zoom meeting. All of those things, all of these integrations with Zoom are happening as we. Well, you know this better than I do. Are happening as we speak.
Perfect.
The ability now when you have a modern service product, for example, the ability for the service person to decide where they're going to work on Tuesday. I can work out of my house on Tuesday. You're going to get a very different kind of workforce making up their own hours. It's not going to be autonomy in the sense that all of our customers, all of our employees are going to become private contractors. That's not going to happen. But they'll look a lot more like private contractors. The great thing about private contractors, they make up their own hours. Well, in service,
yes, Paul Sweeney, I do. You guys were pioneers.
Modern set of service tools to communicate with your customers, the people you're servicing.
Again,
you'll be able to make up your own hours. You'll be able to work from home. So if you're a dad who's sharing, a new dad sharing childcare responsibilities,
what are you gonna do? Buy United?
Your wife is working, and and some days you can stay at home, do your service job, and watch the kids. I mean, it sounds funny, but that's incredible in terms of our own employee satisfaction, improving the quality of life of our employees, letting them, providing tools that allow them work from home. This is so different than the traditional equal effectiveness.
Keynote at Open.
Another thing is
it's way better.
We've had
way better.
We have a lot of people who work in New York
Next
City.
Next slide.
Because they're close to some of the key customers. Not obvious to me at all that you need to be physically. You have to live in New York City to service customers that live in New York City.
Well, I do want to live in New York City, but
wherever out of Maine, a beautiful coastal community in Maine, and right on the ocean. So suddenly our employees are going to have a lot more flexibility. They're getting much more efficient with their time. They're commuting back and forth. I mean, the amount of wasted time in a big city like Los Angeles,
employee experience,
New York,
improves
you spend in your car, not effective,
improves everything.
Not terribly effective, and you're not really happy to be in rush hour traffic on the 405 going south in LA. That's all going to change. We're watching that change. There are many. I mean, COVID's a terrible thing, but an interesting side effect, I think, of COVID. It has changed our work patterns to the point where not only will we work differently, we'll disperse and work from different places. And we're preparing for that at Oracle Corporation right now. and providing the tools for our employees where they can work, they can live where they want to live and work when they want to work. So it sounds pretty good. They can, you know, by the way, you can buy a much nicer house in Nashville, Tennessee, for the same amount that you buy an apartment in New York City. But only if you love New York, stay in New York. If you want to buy a big house next to Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee, go do that. We suddenly give employees choice of where they want to live, how they want to work, when they want to work.
That's only one of
These
three.
modern digital tools. I'll go back to
Two of
consulting.
three. There's
the most
another one.
obvious ones, where consultants used to go on site on customer sites. Just not necessary. So we'll have consultants in Nashville helping a client in New York
See,
City.
what's interesting about this is that he's putting his money where his mouth is on it. The entire company is shifting to this pattern, which is a massive change in Oracle culture. And a
Geography is becoming less and less
very,
relevant.
very good one.
Well, it fits all the
lives of our
design changes
employees,
they
giving them more
brought
choice.
on.
Everything.
Where
This
they
is-
work
this
and
is
how they
another
work.
big
It's
step
going
for
to
Oracle. too.
revolutionize way we deliver our products and services.
And then it'll say, "No, I'm not Jason Lundy."
Not on-premise anymore. I mean, except our legacy is on-premise.
This
We
is so
deliver our
different
products
than what
through
I'm
the
used to.
cloud digitally.
It's
We deliver our
really
consulting
eye-opening.
services through the cloud. Our employees look more like gig employees, but they obviously
It's funny when the non says that, and I see that picture of him with that big smile. It's like I don't even know what to think.
higher minimum wage can help our employees.
Yeah, you know, it's
Look,
fascinating. A lot of people, when they think about
give
CX,
Oracle credit on that one, man.
they're spent
That was
time
props.
lamenting
Best
the
part
loss
so
of
Big
far.
props.
processes
Big
and physical
props.
interaction. But your
Yeah.
point about
I got a
how
lot
we
of notes
unlocked
for our
this
talking
possibility
head
for
part.
people to redefine their lives because we built our products in a way that, you know,
Exactly. No, it's not lip
story
service,
of
man. You
Badger
don't.
I don't think
Trucks,
so.
Which is one of
I
our
don't think
No,
customers
no,
in
it's
the
not. It's
hydrovac
definitely not.
soil excavation business using the full
Can't be skeptical about things like that.
unified with the back
Not
office.
at this point.
They now run their trucks as independent P&Ls. They never have to talk to anybody. They never have to go anywhere. They're completely free to run their business, book their appointments, send their texts wherever, reconcile their accounts. It's all enabled through this digital transformation. When you tie that together with the
Be
ability
careful.
to have a CX
Don't just be calling it
process
digital
involved
transformation.
from a sales
I know.
opportunity
That was the
to
first time I
Zoom
heard.
conference or a
I
service,
know. Call it increased use of digital tools.
you really do free up people to live their life the way they want to live it. And that's an amazing way, I think, Larry, to think about what we're doing for CX, in addition to, I think, building the next generation of products the way they were supposed to be built, which is not as bespoke individual pieces, but as unified suites, products that take into consideration the industry problems, but also ones that unlock the ability of people to work in different ways. It's a whole way of rethinking CX, which is the journey we've been on, and I think what we've been really trying to do. And you said it early that you know, this is going to take time for the world to really understand what they want from these systems, and we're now at that point where you can see the benefit you get from unifying this front to back IaaS layer up through the application layer, and the ability to leverage that and by industry.
Well, I just look at our customers who had moved to the cloud. You know, we're using the Fusion ERP.
Is he sitting on the edge of his bed, by the way?
when,
No,
when
I
the
don't think
pandemic
so.
hit.
I can't really tell.
No, he's
When
just in
people
front
were
of it.
ordered to stay home, everyone can continue to work with NetSuite. Everyone can continue to work with Fusion. I don't know if they like that, but it certainly allowed the employees to stay home, do their job, and their companies to do well during the shutdown. If you didn't have those kind of systems, and you had to come to work, a lot of those businesses suffered because they didn't have modern digital systems. Now not everyone can work from home. If you're working in a Tesla factory, again, you can't work from home. So it's not universal, but an awful lot of our jobs are in
Wouldn't
the
it be great if
service
you
part
could
of
work
the
from home
economy
in a
as
factory?
opposed to the manufacturing part of the economy.
Yep.
There you can work at home, and you watch what's happening in New York. You know, it was very interesting to hear Governor Cuomo of New York saying, "Please come back." I don't know if you saw this very famous speech. Please come back. I'll cook. We'll have dinner. We'll go out for a drink. I'll cook. All of this stuff. And he was being very cute. I mean, he was being very cute and very charming. But the fact is, there's been an incredible exodus from New York City because being locked down, when you're locked down at home, you'd like your home to have a backyard where you go out to see grass.
The exodus is because at the time the virus was raging.
For
real. It wasn't because they didn't have a backyard.
Whatever.
That's totally wrong. That's just totally wrong.
43rd floor of some high rise. It's just not psychologically very gratifying.
Yeah. No, Paul Sweeney is a pioneer in voice. He really is. And one of the unknown heroes of voice, man. That man.
From way back.
And as we've been becoming more and more urban, I'll give you a prediction. I mean, I'm sure other people understand this better than I do, but I'll give you a prediction. We'll start becoming less and less urban, more and more distributed, more, and whether you like it or not, more and more global.
This is Zoho.
Really sounds.
They were right. It is Zoho. It was right.
An employee in New York from, as I said, from Nashville, Tennessee. You can also do it from Delhi in India. Or
I'd rather do it from New York personally. But
digital companies will become more.
I need to be near Yankee Stadium when it's filling up again.
More distributed. They'll have, but the great news is they'll have much better tools. They'll be much more efficient. They'll have more choices how they work, when they work. They won't be wasting a lot of time commuting. They'll be able to spend more time with their families. All of those things should improve the quality of life while simultaneously improving the efficiency of the company. And that's a win-win.
Yeah.
And it's all made possible by this incredible acceleration of the digital transformation that we've seen over the last 9 years.
Again,
Great.
not digital transformation.
For joining us to give your thoughts on where we're going with
Sprint to the starting line
and share the progress that you've seen and are seeing and how that's going to impact the world. Is an awesome discussion. Really appreciated it. And thanks very much.
Great talking with Rob and great talking to everyone at the conference.
All right. Thanks.
All right. That was cool.
Yeah.
All right. So there you heard a lot of great predictions and thoughts from Larry. Just to wrap up a couple of key themes. Again, just want to reiterate, we've been hard at work on creating the best-in-class CX solutions unified with our back office, built on the world's best cloud architecture and infrastructure. And we're excited to talk more about that to you during this live experience conference. Second, I think you heard it from Larry, as the world's changing and as population dynamics are changing, and that's enabling new work patterns, it's time to rethink CX. So we really hope that everybody is thinking about this architecture and this platform as a way to guide them into the future, not to cling to something that's been in the past. And finally, just remember by industry that you have unique sets of problems. You have unique opportunities, and Oracle has that industry lens that we're going to bring to your CX problems, whether it's communications, banking, utilities, whatever it is. We have that expertise to help walk you through that transformation. That's a key part of our journey. So thanks, everyone. And back to you, Lisa and Jay.
All right, we're going to drop off, right?
All right. Yeah.
Time to start the conversation. So let me take the sound off here.
Everyone stick around. Got things to say.
Things to say. Here we go. There we go. There. And I think I can bring us. Whoa. Oh, let me take two. There's no need for
two of you anymore. Now, now that Brent Leary is done with his speech, his conversation with Rob. Oh, that's a new one. I'm guessing.
I got one for you that Alan wanted to ask you a question. Let me do that one. Right. There it is.
Okay. So here's the deal. And this is it's an industry problem, not just an Oracle speech issue. If you actually look at what's gone on the entire time we've been under COVID and the acceleration of use of Zoom and all the other digital assets that are out there. That is not, you've been hearing out in the industry that we're now on a sprint to the finish line for digital transformation. And the answer is no, we're not, right? The fact is we're using a lot more digital tools. That's not the same thing as a true digital transformation, which involves cultural change, it involves business model change. It involves a lot of other things that are not being taken into account when the words spew from people's mouths, which is digital transformation. And we're really, really in the middle of it on a massive scale. We're not. What's happened, and if you're looking at it realistically, is most companies haven't undergone a full transformation yet because they don't really know where the outcomes are going in terms of COVID and the economy, and they're a little unclear. But they're starting to think about what it takes to actually change their model, and at the same time begin to sort of build out the culture that will support the transformation of the model. So it's on people's minds now, which is fair, and I would say it's the subject of conversation in a lot more companies than it had been historically. But that is not a sprint to the finish line for digital transformation. That's why I said it's a sprint to the starting line. Right now, the reality of what's happened is that we've used a much increased volume and variety of digital tools to our benefit. And the rest of it is where the digital transformation comes in, not just the use of more tools. Just because we're using Zoom a lot from home doesn't mean we've undergone massive digital transformation of a company. Maybe your family did. You've changed your business model, meaning now, you have to share a room as an office or whatever it is. But the reality is that's what I meant by sprint to the starting line, right? We're at the point now where rather than something which was, ad hoc at best, meaning some companies were talking about it, some companies were doing it, most companies weren't. Now it's on it's basically at least in the conversation for a lot more companies, but it's by no means close to even vaguely complete in any way, shape, or form other than the use of the tools themselves.
And the thing he said about Zoom, just to kind of piggyback, I think that was people forced into digital transition, not transformation. That was, well, we can't do it this way anymore. So what can we use that we can simulate what we were doing before? Not to think outside the box and think of creative or innovative or things that we've never even thought of. Now we can try them out because of this. I think people have been focused more on how do we use this technology to simulate what we need to do because we can't do it the way that we've always done it before. But then all the other things he said around the employee experience stuff, I really thought that was great. I thought that's, taking this technology and transforming the way that your employees are able to work, which also, transforms your organization and transforms the relationship you have with your customer. But just the fact that you're using something like a Zoom, that's not transformational. That's transitional to a certain extent.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, the interesting thing with Oracle is I think Larry, without being conscious of it really, was outlining the elements of that transformation, right? I mean, he was outlining change in culture, work
Right.
at home. We don't care if you're working at home or working, you can work when you want. Basically, other companies have done that, which is essentially as long as you get your job done and you set your own hours, your own time, your own dates, your own locations, whatever. Secondly, he also indicated, the change in the business model. We don't need consultants on site over at the client side anymore. We're beginning to change well, that's a change in the processes and how we do things. That he was discussing that. He didn't discuss any change in the pricing model, but at the same time, that's there are some implications there that I'm sure will be followed through, and that and that goes hand in hand with even pre-COVID, the change in the culture of Oracle itself, which has been
Right.
in process for about 3 years. But this, to their credit, this did accelerate the transformation. And it goes right to your point. And Larry talking about employee engagement, which he really was, is really important because it's really an indicator of the transformation internally at Oracle, which, people have to stop being so skeptical of Oracle. I know, look, it's been always a difficult company in the way people view it, but there's a lot of changes going on there that are fundamental and real, and they're not just lip service.
When at least when I started feeling that change was 2 years ago when they brought Rob on.
Right.
You know, and the team that he's built, you know, even from our, you know, PR analyst relations side to the actual, you know, the executive team, there's been a different feeling, at least for me. Like, and then to hear to Larry, you know, talk about this, because we've seen him at Open World and opening up, you know, the opening keynote. He gets to the bits and bytes. And he's talking about
Oh
servers.
God.
I mean, this was such a different and refreshing uh, thing to hear from him. I believe it's real. I believe that the, you know,
Oh, I do.
he's put together to, you know, him talking about it the way he did. You can feel there, you know, and I think he sees that there's an opportunity because of some of that, you know, the assets they have to pull it together in a way that, you know, helps companies sell more. You know, that might sound kind of, you know, uncxy, but it is very much a part of the employees. If you can help the employees sell better in a way that's more that allows them to kind of do it in the lifestyle or the kind of the perspective that they have a little bit more capability to shape how they do things, that's a big selling point. And I think the other thing I'll say about it, his talking about voice, I, that was kind of pivotal for me, at least, because he wasn't just throwing it out there. It was tied to, you know, this whole idea of making it easier for folks to use the applications and the platforms. And from an employee experience, if you're able to speak to your applications and get, you know, the things out of it that you need to in a much more efficient way than typing and swiping and clicking and all that, that has a lot of opportunity to be a game changer. You know, it's not going to happen overnight, but hearing him talk about it, and I also heard that same kind of message from Evan Goldberg when we were talking a couple of weeks ago with NetSuite when they had their event, and even before that in some of the analyst briefings that we've had. I've heard that message come across, and then to hear it from Larry, that makes me believe this thing is real, and they think it's an important part of their puzzle.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. Now if I'm taking a look at the discussion slash speech as a whole, I actually think they started it from the wrong standpoint completely, to be honest. They came in and started with integration and right away. And the reality is they should have started from the standpoint that's old Oracle, actually, if you want to look at its product. Yeah. Right. And they should have started from CX, which is really the point. Ultimately, how do you actually engage customers in a way that keeps them coming back to continue to be your customers, and that way you'll eventually will sell more, right? Obviously, and we know I'm not going to get into the data on that side. It's just a thought, right? So, you know, but instead they went straight to technology and integration and I don't think that's a very strong argument for them, really. I think, look, obviously they and SAP are the two companies that can speak about the back office and the front office most effectively, because they're the two companies that provide products that are solid at the enterprise level. Microsoft does too, but not at the enterprise level or to the extent of either of those two companies. Microsoft has some lightweight kind of, you know, ERP-ish financials, Great Plains-ish stuff. But the reality is that these are the two companies that can make that argument and talk to integration or talk to, what did he call it? Unified or I forget the word. But whatever it was, started with a U, whatever it was, universal, universal. But the thing is that their argument is not that. And two things happened as a result of that I think they underemphasized greatly, that they should have emphasized a great deal more. One was when it comes to Oracle's products, right? One was just the discussion on marketing and integrating marketing. Marketing didn't even get talked about till Rob kind of, you know,
at the last part, the last section.
And he kind of just sort of said it. It was just like a word included with the other three, right? So there was no discussion of it. And, you know, ultimately, if you're talking about integration of the front office, you are talking about marketing. And you're talking about commerce, which, of course, integrates the front and the back office. And ironically, you know, they know that. And the other thing that it led to, which I think was problematic, was no discussion about CX Unity, which is literally their biggest differentiator.
Which is what kind of pulls this whole thing and makes the whole thing work, because of, you know, all the information coming from all their different systems, Unity is what pulls it together and kind of, makes sense of it all, which, I would have thought they would have said more about that. I'm kind of glad I didn't hear the 3-letter CDP mentioned much.
I was just thinking the same thing. That was the one major relief of this whole thing, was no discussion of CDP. Well, Rob said a couple of weeks ago, and actually, so I did an interview with Rob and Mike, the guy they were talking about for communications. He actually runs all their verticals. And a couple of weeks ago, that will be made available by Oracle pretty soon. And the one thing that really comes across when you listen to these two guys talk is that they know that Unity is way more than the CDP, right? It's not, and
Right.
which is, and I think they've even said that specifically, or Rob did, I think specifically in an analyst summit at one point, not too long ago. Right. And I love that. I'm just glad that they understand how much more that is. The other thing I really did like, and I was impressed with from a standpoint of at least what Larry seemed to be talking about, was the recommendation engine, so to speak.
Yeah, on the sales side. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was B2B. That's what was interesting to me. Usually recommendation engines are B2C.
Wasn't it all kind of focused mostly around, when he was talking about sales, it was mostly around B2B, I thought, at least.
Yeah, entirely, I think. And
hey, can I make a recommendation though? I would love to have Paul Sweeney on, and maybe we get Paul on with who am I thinking about? I can't believe I'm blanking on my buddy's name. Okay. Well, anyway, to talk about what he's thinking about around the voice aspects.
You mean on now or on the show?
No, let's do a show with him on it.
All right. Okay.
Maybe have
Paul, are you in? Comment if you're still around.
If you'd be interested in doing that, because I'm starting to feel a little bit more like there's something more going on with voice finally after 2 years everywhere being in the wilderness with that. Hearing him see it, and it's like I said, I've heard it was Evan, and I think it was mentioned on a few of our analyst briefings with Oracle, but to hear Larry point it out specifically, and I think it's a great opportunity for Oracle.
Okay. Paul's in.
Okay, cool. There was one other. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. We'll think about it, but that's great. Paul, we'll set up a time, because I think it's time for this discussion to move a little bit further up on the priority list, I think.
Yeah. So look, on the whole, this was useful. I mean, that's the way to think about it, really. I don't want to, it's a conversation, so it doesn't have any dramatic impact either way, but I think it's important to understand. And, given a lot of things going on lately, it's very important to understand that the company is behind CX in a pretty substantial way and is willing to actually put themselves forward. Because, Larry's historic speeches are not about CX at all, really. I mean, he may mention it in the in the moment for something, but generally he doesn't usually focus on CX. And even though this is the Oracle MCX Summit, the fact that he gave the keynote, conversation is an indicator of the importance they're placing. And I got a Rob, Des Cahill, Steve Fioretti, the longtime Oracle folks there have been exceptional in making sure that this thing has gone forward, even in the worst of times for Oracle, right? And so, shout out to those guys because of the incredible work that they've done. And and Rob coming there has just transformed the way the company has actually engaged. And I'm very glad to see it. I'd say that the other thing, I guess the only other thing I have to bring up that I thought was important, although I think they overstated their own case on it, even though I think it's really important, is the vertical thing. First of all, yes. Larry used the word only and uniquely about Oracle several times. And the answer is, in no instance that he used it was he actually saying what was the case, right? The reality is, everyone is focused on verticals.
Everyone. I mean,
everyone.
Almost every week there's a new announcement from Salesforce around.
Well, look, I mean, they bought Velocity, for God's sake. That gave them 7 more verticals, right? That were mature.
Yeah.
I think they have Well, and SAP has 24 verticals.
Yeah, Immersis came that there's a lot of story around that. So industries is like one of the big themes out of 2020 coming out of this pandemic year.
Absolutely. And it makes sense. Look, I don't think anything's a green fields anymore, but I call them industries a turquoise field, meaning there's enough green in it to make it worth it. Or there is some blue, blue ocean green fields, right? So, but that all ends up to turquoise in my head anyway, unless somebody can come up with a better color match for that. I'm happy to accept a different one. We'll sit down with a color correction device and geek out on figuring out what kind of fields are out there. But verticals are where, look, it's been verticals for a long time, really. I mean, and Oracle coming out with communications, believe me, what they came out with is excellent. What they actually have done is excellent, but it's one. Okay. And there are others in the works, but and the good thing that what Oracle's got in their favor is on the back end, especially because of Oracle database, right. They have penetration into a zillion verticals that are distinct verticals that have actually done specific things to tailor the databases back in the day. So that these are companies that understand it. So they can take an existing industry's base and bring CX into it rather than have to go create new industry maps and build out kind of process maps and needs. So which is fantastic.
That's their that's their strength. They've got a awesome foundation to build all this stuff on. And I also like that he talked about the digital assistant as part of that communications industry piece, which could be carried over into every industry and customized to that industry. I mean, they got a story that they can tell around that. And Dan Miller,
cool. One of the voice assistants was Holly.
Yeah, Holly.
Holly Simmons now works for them. So
yeah, but I want Halle Berry. Can they get
Halle?
Halle Berry. I want Halle. I mean, Holly's cool. Halle would be nice. Just saying.
So
Miller,
again, but Larry, please don't say you're unique. I mean, it's just I'm going to call any company that does it, and when you do it too, it's just you're not. Oracle's not unique here. Okay, it's just one of many companies who have understood the value and importance of verticals and are addressing it, and that's important. I'm glad you're doing it, and I'm really happy for it that Oracle is, because I think they'll ultimately do a very good job, given what I saw with the communications CX suite that they've done, but not unique.
So I was thinking if we could get Paul and we could get Dan Miller. That was the other person I was trying to remember, because Dan of course, is Mr. Voice. There's this guy I don't know on still holding out on. Do you know who this is possibly?
Yeah, that's Marshall.
Ale Fiend is Marshall.
Go up several. I knew it was as soon as I saw Ale Fiend. He mentioned his name at one point, but I literally knew it was him before he told us it was him.
I had no
right away.
I knew
right away.
I didn't even see that one. That is funny. All right, that's cool. So yeah, let's try to get Paul and Marshall and Dan Miller to really do a little bit more of a deep dive on this voice stuff.
Okay,
I think there's a lot of.
So we'll take voice forward. I would, if I'm looking at today and I'm giving it a grade, I'd give it a B, a good solid B. I think and believe me, given how hard I am on speeches, that's a good number. I'd say the positives. What do you think the positives are for today? And what do you think the negatives were?
I think the positives was Larry. You could tell that Larry was actually into it. If this was not somebody that felt like he just had to address it because other people say, yeah, this is important. No, you can tell you can feel he was into it. He understands the importance of it. Of course, he's going to, kind of approach it from that perspective of platform and technology and things like that. That's okay. But the main thing is he sees, the benefit of this is to help employees get things better done, give experiences better and more tailored experiences to them, helps them, helps the customer experience. I think he definitely made the connection between employee experience and customer experience. And in the end, all of those things, help everybody out. I would say, yeah, the whole, there's no point in trying to make it sound like, you know, you're doing something that nobody else is doing or nobody else can do. I think everybody is looking at this. I do think, you know, Oracle has certain, you know, approaches and strengths to doing that that maybe other folks don't have. But everybody's looking at this. CX is like the biggest two-letter word there is at the moment in the enterprise. I mean, everybody is talking about it, you know, CX. So from that perspective, yeah, you know, we don't really need to be sold to that point. But I do think it was very positive to hear him talk about this stuff and talk about it in a way that didn't feel like, you know, he was doing bits and bytes stuff. It was
Moving slides.
yeah,
Getting a slide moved for him.
yeah. It was.
So
It didn't feel mechanical in any way. It felt like real, like organic, and you know, he was into this stuff.
okay, so what's negative?
Like I said, the negative is that I don't, you know, you don't have to sell us on you guys are doing something that nobody else is doing or attempting to do. It's just you have certain strengths, and your approach to that can be, you know, can fit with a lot of companies. And even though somebody else may be doing this, you know, the same kind of thing, you guys can do it in a different way, and that may be, you know, a selling point. And I think it could be a very important selling point. I think he could have probably should have talked about Unity a bit more, about Unity's role in all this, and talk more about the marketing front end of this. He focused on the strengths, which totally makes sense, and maybe eventually they'll talk more about the front end when they feel more comfortable about what they're doing. But those are the things I thought could have been a little bit added more to the conversation.
So to your point, I agree with everything single thing you said. And the only thing I would add is on the marketing side, they actually have a strong marketing product. Which
Yeah, they got a lot of pieces to that puzzle.
Alec was a great company to buy for them, and they built it into something that is unique and works in their cloud. And I would say the other things I would recognize as a strength, in addition to what you said, was the fact that he did make a really important point, which is, you know, they are the only company that has enterprise grade business applications that run effectively with their own cloud infrastructure, right? Which is, I mean, it doesn't mean that's necessarily good for every company that's how it works. It's just they're the only company who can make that case, because they do separate from SAP, who doesn't run on their own cloud infrastructure because they don't have it. They're not, or at least they don't have what Oracle, you know, Azure, Microsoft Azure, AWS, etc., and Google have. Okay, so that was another point I thought was positive, or at least distinctive. I think the other thing I found positive, as I mentioned, was I think that B2B recommendation thing actually is, let's say this, I don't know if I find it really intriguing because I've never heard recommendations in that context, even though, and part of what he said was advertising to the influencers of those deals, which was also intriguing, right? Again, he didn't explain it to the point, rightfully, because he shouldn't have, that I would understand how that works for them, but I'm going to follow up on it, because I think what they've got there is different, and I haven't heard anyone else who's done that. And again, every time I've seen a recommendation, it's always B2C, large scale, you know, at scale, consumer focused, product specific, you know, as opposed to, hey, sales guy, here are other people at this company we should push to, and here are other people at other companies who are likely to buy deals similar to these. Now, I do remember when they had Oracle Social CRM years ago that they actually tried to do that. I actually remember the products. I saw them, and they failed miserably at it, really. But now it sounds like they've actually taken what they tried to do then, and they've actually maybe, find out soon enough, pulled it off. I'd say the other negative, and this is a big one to me, unfortunately, but the other negative was just the way they focused the whole speech to begin with, right? Which was really not around the customer and around outcomes, such as speak, although outcomes of sorts, yes, but not outcomes that are customer driven, right? But it was much more around integrated technology And
Right.
that to me is not where you start if you're a CX group, right? Your job is to start with the customer always. It goes to like, that whole thing that Scott McCorkle's doing with Meta CX, right? On the one hand, what's he doing? Right? He's saying, well, the first step in this technology is not technology. It's basically we can help enable salespeople conversations with customers to figure out the outcomes customers are looking for, then align the companies and then measure the success of that alignment, for the companies with those outcomes, right? That's actually CX, right? And, Scott still needs a category because there isn't one, but that's actually CX. And that's a much more customer focused way of looking at it. And I think that they should have started the whole thing from that and taken it there. But on the whole, it's at least what I saw was at least a solid indicator of where Oracle CX is going. I actually have something to say about that, but if you'd like to start, I'm happy to.
No, go ahead. I'll
Well, so Thomas, here's the unique, interesting thing. Aside from the things we just both said, like Oracle Cloud Infrastructure and apps on the tech side, the very fact that you can say SAP or Zoho means Oracle Story is different because they have elements of both, which neither of those companies have, right? So SAP does not have elements of Zoho. Zoho does not have elements of SAP. Neither Oracle, apparently, actually, you said it earlier in your conversations, has elements of both. One is Larry's perspective, which was really strikingly odd to me. I mean, I'm surprised he said it, about how we're de-urbanizing, right? Where de-urbanization is going to become the next phase for how we look at things, which is why Zoho triggers in everybody's mind, because, of course, that's Sridhar's whole thing. And he takes it a lot further, of course. Sridhar said, no, it's in rural areas where all this is going to happen. He's not talking about de-urbanization. He's talking about rural, right? Which is a much further step than what Larry was saying. Larry's basically saying people are going to move out of the cities and into nice, smaller cities or suburbs, right? Because that's his experience in life, right? Where Sridhar, born and raised in villages, right? So he's saying, no, villages, right? That's, first of all, the concept right there, the thing that makes him even interesting on a Zoho level is that. Secondly, SAP doesn't talk about that at all. On the other hand, SAP and Zoho really isn't integrated. I mean, they do have integrated back and front office, but not at enterprise scale. They're not even close to that, right? SAP has the scale, but they don't have the cloud infrastructure, nor does Zoho for that matter. And on the other hand, the other thing that SAP doesn't have really is the perspective that Zoho has at all, right? So, and Oracle, as I said, Oracle's not really there either. Even though Larry talked about that whole move out of the cities, he wasn't saying what Sridhar says. I mean, let's not confuse the two, even though, to be perfectly honest, my immediate thought was Zoho too, just like yours. And so that, well, it's what immediately you think, Sridhar, right? So, but it's not this, what he was saying, when you really think about it, it's not the same.
There's some fundamental differences between Zoho and everybody else. SAP and Oracle, they both, they're willing to acquire to grow, or they're bringing a piece that they don't have. They're willing to buy it. Zoho doesn't do any of that. They've never really done any of that. Their whole thing is, we will do it on our own. And if it takes us X amount of years to do it the way that we want to do it, they're fine with that. They don't have, outside influences by way of shareholders who want them to grow as fast as possible. And so their whole culture and their whole way of doing things is significantly different than anybody else, because I think, as Schroeder once said, he always gets a really good night's sleep on quarter close days, because they don't have to worry about meeting quotas. They don't have to worry about certain things that other organizations do, because they're comfortable growing at the pace that they want to grow, doing it the way they want to do it. That's a huge, significant difference. And I don't see anybody else coming close to doing that right now.
Right. And if you're looking at the SAP Oracle side of it, honestly, look, each of them has advantages. Look, intelligent enterprise for SAP is not something even Oracle can claim really at the level SAP can, right? It's just, I mean, SAP's scope of back office is absolutely enormous. I mean, Oracle's is substantial. Don't get me wrong; it's big, but it's not like SAP's. Oracle has several that they really specialize in well, and they do great jobs at with financials and things like that. But they do great at that. But SAP's digital supply chain. You can pick, and Oracle has supply chain too. I'm not saying, but SAP's supply chain is different from their digital supply chain. I don't know that it should be, but it is. SAP has a highly, let's say this, intelligent enterprise works very well as SAP's overarching corporate narrative and messaging. It would not work as well for Oracle.
This doesn't sound like a real question, but since he's here, here's this with talking about maybe pointing out a differentiator there for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there you go, Des. It's fair. You're allowed to take that shot here. Believe me, it's fair. Thomas asked the question. You are differentiated.
Yeah, there it is. So there it is. This was actually a really good event, I think, just from a knowledge and understanding. You got to see how it all plays out. Of course, we don't get any details, any of that stuff, but I got a lot. Hearing from Larry, hearing him specifically talk about this area, that was just a big new thing for me. And I think we'll see how, I hope he does more of that. And I hope we can see kind of what happens, what actually plays out and see how close it is to kind of some of the things that we heard from him today. Really good. I'll be interested in tracking that.
Yeah, well, I know my follow-up will be on the recommendation side. I know that, Des. I hope you're hearing this. My follow-up will be on the recommendation side. All the things you're doing with the recommendation engine that Larry and Rob were talking about, because that to me is really, really, it's beyond intriguing. Actually, it's to me, it's kind of important at a certain level. I have to think this through because I have this theory I'm working on now that I'll probably talk about on some later Playaz episode as I work it through on, let's call it insertion of the blade. That's the only thing I'll call it right now.
But are we going to get Wesley Snipes up in here or something? Or
no, definitely not.
And I am and Des, I want to hear more about how this voice thing plays out because I think it's there for the taking for whoever is able to integrate it in effectively and make it easier from an employer experience to use these applications. And that will drive better outcomes for customers as well. So I am interested in that. This has been a good, and let's hear from folks. Did you like this? Did you like kind of what do you call it? The mystery science theater approach?
Yeah. Well, the best we could. It's like, I did notice, like when I would say, or you would say something, when we would say something, Larry's voice would kind of get super choppy. Not that it was just, we were talking over it. It would like literally interfere with the transmission in some way, slightly. Wasn't bad though.
I think it might be better when we're doing these kinds of things to go down to 720 or whatever it is instead of 1080p.
On the resolution, yeah, we could do that.
Maybe, I don't know. That might be a little.
No, it could be. It'll help. It was good though. It's still fun.
Yeah, let us know what you thought. We enjoyed seeing your comments, that's for sure, and listening to everything. So
yeah, we have to see. Okay, guys, it's going to be up to you guys to let us know if we're going to be doing more of these watch parties.
Yeah.
Right. As Alan Berkson called the CRM Playaz 3K.
Oh, he said no audio issues. That's good to know. That's
okay.
Good.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. All right. Well, that's good to know. Well, maybe we'll try it at another big keynote. We'll see maybe we can figure out a way to even improve on it because that's our deal. This was a big experiment for us today. And
yeah, we had no idea if it was going to work. And after our attempt at doing it with John King this morning, while we're testing it out, we were almost sure it wasn't going to work.
Yeah, John wasn't really feeling us, so
no, he sure wasn't.
All right, that's good. Good to get some positive feedback from Bob for a change. Although I bet Bob enjoyed the game, the Saints Tampa Bay game last night, or I could be wrong. Who knows?
Well, we got tonight. I know the Patriots are on tonight on the Monday Night Football.
All right, so it looked like we didn't have any audio issues, which is really good to hear. Yeah, refreshing direction, but insanely difficult. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of complexity involved in this, but
The issue is thinking of it as a platform rather than a stack, and you're probably better off, and makes it a little easier to execute too.
yeah. All right, good to hear from Thomas.
All right, guys.
All right, thank you. All right. I guess that means we've talked ourselves into having to do this again, huh?
Yeah, we'll do some other ones. We'll figure them out. Well, we got Dreamforce coming up. Mark's speech.
Oh yeah. Well,
That's December.
we should at least say Amos keynotes. We should probably
Right.
Amos.
All right. Amos keynotes.
And for the folks over at ServiceNow, you gotta get up there so we can say Amos, and we'll include
That's
you.
right. We're hanging on your every effort now. So we add that hiss to the end of Amos.
Yes. All right. So we'll see you guys Thursday when we're back to our usual time and place and all that stuff.
Yeah, we're not announcing who the person is yet, or the persons, because we're still working on it.
Yeah, because we don't know.
No, we'll let you know on Thursday.
All right. Oh, in the meantime, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz, and we're played out till Thursday. That didn't sound good.
Amen. Till the happy hour, at least.
And now for our favorite part, the 10-second pose. I never make it past 2 seconds.